Hello, everyone. So today we are talking about interactions with others. So let's talk about something that we don't say out loud enough. Okay. You've been showing up nice, you've been agreeable, always ready to help, but deep down inside, you're feeling unseen. You're just performing connection. Okay. So today's life lesson is a call to really stop equating being liked with being safe. Okay. So in this lesson today, what we're going to uncover is the emotional cost of people pleasing, how perfectionism shows up in your relationships, and why connection isn't peace if it excludes your truth. Because here's the truth: real love doesn't require your performance, it requires your presence. Okay. It requires your presence. So, where are you still performing in relationships when what you really want to be is present? Okay. It is smiling when you start, when you want to speak. It's apologizing just to smooth things over. It's saying yes because you're scared of losing the connection. So, in today's life lesson, I'm here to remind you that peacekeeping is a cost. All right. So, here's what I got to ask you: what if the version of you that's always trying to say the right thing, do the right thing, and hold the room together is the version keeping you from real connection? Did y'all hear that question? What if the version of you that's always trying to say the right thing, that's always trying to do the right thing, and always trying to hold the room together is the exact version of you that is keeping you from your real connections? Here's my why. Because I know the ache of being everything for everyone else and still feeling unknown. I built this lesson to really help you stop shrinking to fit in rooms and really to start standing in your truth that you are enough without overperforming. So here's the disclaimer for today. All right. This isn't about giving you permission to stop caring about people, because connection is important. All right. So again, this isn't about giving you permission to stop caring about people. It's about helping you care for yourself within your relationships. Good afternoon. It is Energy Audit Thursday. All right, it's Energy Audit Thursday, and it's time for us to take our deep breath. We're in the middle of the day. I kind of gave some time. We had a big situation happen in our city. And I know a lot of people attended the funeral of a young man who passed away suddenly from drowning in a pool. So definitely want to give his family, you know, our prayers and our sincerity, right? And so I watched that funeral. It was a phenomenal funeral. A lot of people were able to get saved. It was very moving. And so I wanted to give individuals that time. Now it's our time to really take our breath. A lot has happened in our lives. So let's feel our feet on the floor, scan up our legs, just bringing some compassion to our bodies, up our backs, releasing the tension off our shoulders, giving our organs some compassion, right? Some love, creating space in our hearts, right? For ourselves and those around us, down our arms, really activating our hands, being able to do some things today that we probably haven't been able to do, right? Or just activating our hands just to be present, okay? To receive, all right? And present to receive, all right? Up our necks, really clearing our throat chakra so we can speak our truth, right? We can speak our truth with courage and confidence, all right? Up our face, our lips, our nose, our eyes, all right? And then activating our brain, right? This is the afternoon, right? It's after 12 o'clock. And so a lot has probably happened. So we're in the second part of our day. So just really feeling the space around us. If we're feeling too tight because so much has happened, let's kind of release some of that energy. And if we're taking on too much, right, let's just kind of bring our energy in for a moment and just take a deep breath. Okay. It's a cleansing breath. All right. So I want you to drop a comment. Let me know how you're feeling on today. All right. How am I feeling? I'm feeling grateful. I'm able to get a lot done, reorganizing the team. So a lot is happening in my life, and I feel it, right? I feel it. Some days I feel a little more fatigued than others. Some days I feel a little more anxious than others. Some days I feel a little bit more uncertainty, right? But all of that is a part of life, and I just give myself permission to feel those emotions and keep pushing, putting one foot forward. So I am grateful on today. So who is this session for? This session is for you if you overthink what people need before they ask. All right, you overthink what people need before they ask. If you leave conversations fully emotionally drained, all right, if you're leaving conversations drained, right? You had energy before you got there, and then you're leaving and you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. I need to take a nap, right? And then if you equate being liked to being safe, all right, these are not the same. All right, being liked with being safe. All right, so here's our powerful quote today: people pleasing won't protect you from disconnection. All right, people pleasing won't connect you. People pleasing won't protect you from disconnection. All right, listen, somewhere along the way, we were taught that being loved means being needed. That 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 harmony means hiding. All right, so somewhere along the way we were taught that that being loved means needed, that harmony means hiding, and that connection means never being misunderstood. But here's the truth: any connection that requires your performance is not a real relationship. You are allowed to show up truthful, not just helpful. Okay, you are allowed to show up truthful and not just helpful. I had a client say to me before, I'm always the one that makes sure everyone else is okay, but no one ever checks on me. Listen, we trace back the origin of this belief. If I and this was what she said: if I stop being helpful, I'll stop being loved. That was her interpretation, right, of the help that she did. She was an older sibling, always helping the family, always getting applaud for it. And so the message, so remember, she wasn't said this, but the interpretation of the response she got was, if I stop helping, I'll stop being loved, right? And this just wasn't true. This was trauma dressed up in service. So here's our heart check in. What part of your identity have you tied to being the one who keeps it all together? All right. So let's breathe together for a moment, because this one really goes deep. I want to ask you, or I want you to ask yourself, not from pressure, but from truth: what part of my identity has been shaped by being the one who always has it all together, the one who smooths out the room, the one who calms everyone else's nerve, the one who smiles even when you're exhausted, the one who keeps the peace, even if it costs you your presence? Listen, that's not just behavior. That is identity formed in emotional labor. Okay. Let's tell the truth about today. And then let's start releasing it. Okay. So let's start releasing that. So here's 5 truths that I need you to know about this mirror check-in or this reflective question. Approval wasn't approval without authenticity is emotional exhaustion. Okay. So approval without authenticity is emotional exhaustion. You can be liked and still be unknown. You can be admired and still feel unseen, because when your approval is based on a version of you that you have edited and filtered, it is not real connection. And guess what? Every part of you understands that. Every part of you, your divine self, your intellect, know that this person doesn't really know me, right? And then sometimes we will even like then start to say stuff like, oh, you're only with me for my money, or you only with me because of this. But really, it's your performance that you're judging, and you're projecting it onto someone else. It could be for your knowledge, it could be for your beauty, it could be for your sex, whatever it is. It could be because you're helpful, right? Because you are intelligent, because you're an information gatherer, whatever that is, right? You start to then project that onto people. Right. So then it's like, well, you're only with me because I'm able to do this, or you're only with me. And what we don't realize is silently, that is what you are projecting. Silently, that is what you are providing. So when your approval is based on a version of you that you've edited and filtered, guess what? It's not real connection. You are not called to keep performing, to keep people pleased. You are called to be present, not perfect. And here's the quiet cost of that. Every time you hide your truth to stay approved, a little piece of you in your peace gets lost. Okay. A little piece of you in your peace gets lost. So, number 2, emotional labor does not equate love. If you have to manage the room, if you have to carry everyone's burdens, if you have to filter your feelings and you have to soften your voice just to stay connected, guess what? That's not love. That is a transaction of emotional labor. All right. You were not created to be the emotional caretaker for every conversation. Your value is often found in what you absorb. All right. Your value isn't found in what you absorb. It is found in who you are when you are real. All right. Your presence is enough. You don't have to work for belonging. All right. Number 3, you can be kind and still be clear. And I've said this before. You can be kind and still be truthful. You can be kind and still be clear. You can be kind and still be courageous. All right. Listen, kindness does not mean silence. Love does not mean over accommodating, and grace does not mean shrinking. All right. You are allowed to say, that doesn't work for me. You are allowed to say, I need space. You are allowed to say, I'm not available right now, and still be kind and still be generous and still be, guess what, full of love, and still be kind and still be generous and still be full of love. Listen, clarity is kindness, especially when it includes you. You know, I had someone call me and it was like, hey, you got $20? And I was like, no. Right. And then they said, so you ain't got no money? And I said, I answered your question. No, what they said was, Sheila, can I get $20? And I said, no. And then they said, so you ain't got no money? And I said, I answered your question. And they was like, oh, okay. Right. So again, I'm like, have a good day. They called me back later, told me what they ate and everything. Right. Like, I don't have to go into if I have money or if I can't have money. I answered your question. Can I get $20? My answer was no, right? No, you can't get it. Right. So, but now they felt like they were going to see, okay, why are you saying no? I don't have to explain to you why I'm saying no. I answered your question. Oh, okay. Now I'm better at that now, right? I'm better at that now. In the beginning, I probably would have been like, well, why are you asking me? Didn't I ask you? But I didn't have to do all of that, right? My emotions in the beginning was a little shaky and a little less polished, right? So now I'm at the point where it's like, I answered your question. How are you doing today? Right. We can move on past that. Right. And I was still very kind and gentle because my intention, again, I tell you guys, my intention is not that I don't want you to have that thing. I just don't feel like I need to provide that to you. All right. Number 4, the room will not collapse if you let go. All right. The room will not collapse if you let go. Somewhere you started to believe that if you stop managing everything will fall apart. But that belief was born in trauma, not in truth. Okay. It's not your job to hold everyone together. You can let go of the weight and still be worthy of love. The room doesn't need your perfection. It really just needs your presence. Okay. You are not the glue. You are not the manager. You are not the person with needs, voice. I'm sorry. You are not the glue. You are not the manager. You are a person with needs, with a voice, and with limits. And that part of you is holy. All right. Then last but not least, you don't owe access to protect connections. All right. You don't owe access to protect connections. What does this mean? You don't have to keep giving people unlimited access to you just because you're afraid of losing them. If your connection is only secure when you're always available, when you're always agreeable, always emotionally wide open, guess what? That's not connection. It's control. All right. That's not connection. It's control. You don't owe your silence to keep the peace. You don't owe your emotional energy to stay approved. And you don't owe your emotional energy to stay approved. You are allowed to build boundaries that protect who? You. All right. Not just the relationship. All right. Not just the relationship. So here's the invitation today. Let go of the version of you that's always performing peace and become or come home to, right, the version of you that is willing to be real and raw. Okay. Real and raw. All right. Listen, you don't have to sacrifice the truth to be loved. All right. You don't have to sacrifice your truth to be loved, because your real relationships can't grow while you're performing. All right. Because your real relationships, or just real relationships, right, they can't grow while you're performing. Peace grows in presence. All right. Not perfection. So here's a testimony. When I finally told the truth about how I felt, the right people leaned in, not away. All right, it's an organic thing that happened. So when I started to be more honest with myself, guess what, the right people came in to support that honesty, as other people were dying off. Okay, was as those relationships were unraveling, new relationships we're building. Okay, listen, I want you to know that research says people pleasing behaviors are linked to codependency, anxiety, and identity loss. All right, people pleasing behaviors are linked to codependency, anxiety, and identity loss. If your peace depends on performance, it's not real peace, you guys. If I want to say it again, if your peace it depends on your performance, it's not real peace. All right. So let's go into the framework. All right. Today we're talking about interactions with others. All right. So we know today's theme is perfectionism plus emotional labor in relationships. And what the focus is where have I confused connection with performance? All right. So that is the question. That's the question I want you to keep in the back of your mind as I go through this. Okay. So let's really talk about how perfectionism hides inside relationships, because for so many of us, it's not just about being perfect at work. All right. It's not about being perfect at work or having enough polished on that day. All right. So it's not about being perfect at work or having everything polished. Because for so many of us, it's not just about being perfect at work or having everything polished on the outside. It's about being perfect in how we show up for everyone else. All right. The perfect daughter to our parents, right? The perfect partner to our mate, the perfect friend, right? And the perfect support system. But when connection requires your emotional labor and self erosion, guess what? Guess what? Let me say it like this. When connection requires emotional labor and self-erosion to keep you accepted, that's not peace, that's performance, you guys. So when I'm talking about these performative acts, it's really this erosion of you and this emotional and mental labor that you're doing to what? To feel accepted, to feel needed, to feel loved, right? And that's not peace, that's performance. So let's walk through 10 truths that you need to know about perfectionism and emotional labor in relationships so that you can start reclaiming your peace without apology. All right. Number one, people pleasing is a survival strategy, not a personality trait. So if you have been called the nice one, the helper for most of your life, chances are that behavior started in survival. People pleasing often begins when you learn it's safer to agree than to be rejected. Let me say that one more time. People pleasing begins when you learn it's safer to agree than to be rejected. That's not your personality. That's your nervous system saying, don't upset the room. All right. You're not breaking. You're trying to stay safe. Okay. You're not broken. You're trying to stay safe. Now it's time to stay truthful. All right. Number two, trying to be everything keeps you from being real. All right. Trying to be everything keeps you from being real. When your focus is always on how can I make this better? You forget. All right. You forget to ask, what do I actually feel? All right. Being the emotional glue might keep everyone else comfortable, but it also keeps you disconnected from your own needs and identity. Listen, you don't have to be everything. You just have to be honest. Okay. You don't have to be everything. You just have to be honest. All right. Number three, silence doesn't equal maturity. It often equals fear. All right. You may be keeping quiet, or you may think that keeping quiet makes you strong, but sometimes silence is just emotional shutdown dressed up as wisdom. You've been silent not because you're above it, but because you're afraid your truth will cost you, guess what? That relationship. All right. You're afraid that the truth will cost you that relationship. Listen, maturity isn't silence. Maturity is clarity with I'm sorry. Maturity isn't silence. Maturity is clarity with compassion. Number 4, the more you perform, the less you feel. All right. The more you perform, the less you feel, which is why a lot of people are in a very apathetic state. A lot of people, when we talked about the nervous system, a lot of people are in emotional disconnect, right? Because you've been performing for so long. All right. Listen, when your conversations are scripted to be appropriate, all right, when your body is on autopilot to avoid tension, when you start losing access to how you actually feel, guess what? That is what is draining your energy. All right. Listen, performance doesn't protect your emotion, it numbs them. All right. It's not protecting your emotions. What you're communicating to your emotions is shut off, right? Shut off so I can feel you. It's not that they're not running in the background. It's just, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever had a surgery, right? And then if you feel over that scar, you're feeling the scar, but you can feel the numbness. So you're feeling it because you can feel your finger. But if somebody else touched it, guess what? You wouldn't feel their finger. You would feel the pressure, but you actually wouldn't feel their finger, because when you have a surgery or something like that, then the nerves have to find a way to connect back together, so you don't really have feeling in that part of your arm, right? So this is what happens when we start to disconnect from our feelings, right? When we start to perform, right? But what we think is that performing is protecting our emotions, and it's not, right? It's not protecting your emotions. It's actually numbing them so you can't feel it. So if you can't feel safe being real, guess what? You're not in a relationship. You're in emotional management mode. All right. So if you can't feel safe being real, you're not in a relationship. You're in emotional management role. Number 5, real love doesn't require your disappearance. So if love asks you to shrink, stay quiet, or never have needs, guess what? That's not love. That's emotional conditioning. You are never created to disappear inside of any relationship. All right, you are created to show up whole and to be chosen. I tell people all the time, God created you to be 100%. Okay, he created somebody else to be 100%. If somebody is asking you don't show up as 100%, then you already out of alignment. Don't show up and do you, not in front of me. Then they're telling you on the back end that all of you is not accepted. All right, now, does that mean I have to judge you or make that individual a bad person? No, I just know how to deal with you, right? But know that I'm not going to replace my 100%, right? I'm not going to shrink my 100% for you. So maybe this relationship will only require this part of me, but know that I have a community that's around me of individuals where I'm going to show up 100% myself. And I think that that's where we falter, right? One, it's not another person's responsibility to accept 100% of who you are. That's your responsibility to accept 100% of who you are. So this person's capacity may not be able to accept 100%, but that doesn't mean that you shrink, right? You build a community where you are actively participating in all aspects of who you are. All right. And that's where we have to change. We have such an ownership. Once you become my mate, or when you become my kid, nobody else can talk to you, or nobody else can, parent you, or nobody else can speak into your life. And when you're my mate, like, you can't have any friends and all of that, that we're really stunning people from having a community that they need, right? And that you need to show up as 100%. Listen, you were never created to disappear inside of a relationship. You were created to show up whole and still be chosen. Real love doesn't ask you to perform. It asks you to be present. All right, number 6, you weren't born to manage other people's emotions. You heard me say this over and over again. You are nobody's emotional bodyguard. All right, you are not the therapist for every friend group. You are not the emotional filter for your family. You are not the regulator for everyone else's mood. That's emotional labor, and it is exhausting. All right, you wasn't born to carry the weight of keeping everyone else okay. You were born to live in your own peace. All right. All right. Number 7, connection is not peace if it excludes your truth. All right. Connection is not peace if it excludes your truth. Breathe with that one. All right. You might feel close to someone. You might feel close to someone, but if you can't be honest without tension, guess what? I would challenge you to really start to question, what is that about? All right, listen, you might feel close to someone, but if you can't be honest without tension, right? If you're only safe when you're silent, guess what? That's not peace, that's suppression. Okay. Connection, the cost connection that costs your truth is not worth the cost at all. All right. So again, you might feel close to someone, but if you can't be honest without tension, if you're only safe when you're silent, that's not peace. All right. It's suppression, and connection that costs you your truth is not worth the cost. All right. Number 8, saying no is not betrayal. It's a boundary. So again, saying no is not betrayal. It is a boundary. All right. You are not disloyal for saying, I can't right now. You are not selfish for saying, I need space. Boundaries are how you stay in healthy relationships, not how you push people away. And I want to say that one more time for the people in the back. All right. I think that we have confused boundaries with walls. All right. We have confused boundaries with walls. Boundaries is how we stay in healthy relationships. All right. It's not what we do to push people away. All right. And a lot of us are misinterpreting boundaries as this form of your cutoff game. And boundaries is there so that you can have a healthy communication style, so we can know, right, where those standards are, right? So you can know where your standards are. All right. So boundaries are how you stay in healthy relationships, now how you push them away. If someone treats you, if someone treats you, if someone treats your no like betrayal, guess what? That's a signal, not a reason to feel guilty. All right. If someone treats your no like a betrayal, that is a signal, not a reason to feel guilty. Number 9, apologizing for your needs doesn't make you kind. So saying, I'm sorry, I need this, or I'm sorry, I have to say no, that's a form of shrinking. All right. Your needs, they don't require an apology. They require your honor. All right. They require you to step in a space where you honor this standard. All right. You honor this value. All right. Kindness is not self erosion. You can be loved without abandoning yourself, you guys. All right. Number 10, you can't disappoint someone and still be, let me say this. Number 10, you can disappoint someone and still be in alignment. You can be deeply kind and still say something that someone doesn't like. All right. You can choose truth and still be loving. Disappointment is not failure, you guys. Sometimes it is the cost of alignment. Your job isn't to keep everyone happy. Your job is to keep yourself honest. All right. So as we wrap this section up, as we wrap this section up, I want you to know that you are not here to be a mirror of what everyone else wants to see. You're here to reflect your truth, and that truth is the right connection that will stay for the rest of your life. All right. All right. So again, you are not here to be a mirror of for what everyone else wants to see. You are here to reflect your truth, and that truth, and that, let me say that one more time. You are not here to be a mirror of what everyone else wants to see. You're here to reflect your truth and trust that the right connections will stay. All right. And trust that the right connections will stay. So let's go into our biblical insight as we go to wrap up today's life lesson. All right. So our principal verse today is Galatians 1:10. All right. Am I now trying to win the approval of man or of God? If I will stay trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. Listen, this isn't a verse that scorns you, all right? Scouts you. This isn't a verse that punishes you. It is not. So this isn't a verse that punishes you. It's not about being distant, rude, or indifferent. All right. This is a release, a reorientation, a permission slip, a reminder that your life was never meant to be lived for the mercy of approval. All right. You don't have to win love by being easy, agreeable, and over available. You're not called to align, or you're not called to live on a tightrope of people pleasing. You're called to live in alignment with the God. You're called to live in alignment with who God made you to be, even if it disappoints someone else. All right. Even if it disappoints someone else. The God in you, this is what I want you to know, that this isn't the God in the sky telling you to be hard or rebellious. This is the God within you, that Holy Spirit whispering, I didn't design you to disappear for approval. Okay. I didn't design you to disappear for approval. I didn't give you a voice just so you could silence it for the sake of I didn't give you a voice just so you can silence it for the sake of keeping the peace. I didn't call you to manage how others feel. I called you to move in truth. All right. God, the God in you, isn't interested in image. He's invested in your integrity. All right. He's invested in your integrity. And that starts with you being honest in about what's real, not just what's palatable. All right. So here's the nervous system connection to this verse. Now let's talk about it. All right. Let me say this. When you consistently scan for approval, when you're bracing to keep others happy, when you're constantly scanning for approval, when you're bracing to keep others happy, when you're living, right, when you're likely living in, listen, when you constantly scan for approval, when you're bracing to keep people happy, when you're constantly scanning for approval, when you're bracing to keep others happy, you're likely living in what's called the fawn response. All right. So remember, we said fight, fright, freeze, or fawn, right? So you're in a fawn response. It's a trauma-informed survival pattern where you avoid conflict, where you overfunction, where you say yes out of fear, and where you manage the emotional temperature of the room to really feel safe. This shows up as people pleasing. But underneath, it's your nervous system really trying to avoid perceived rejection or abandonment. But here's the breakthrough. When you stop performing for approval and start living from your inner truth, your nervous system regulates, okay? You shift from fawn to, guess what? To faith. When you get rooted in God and in the God within you, you no longer extend this external approval, or you no longer need this external approval to feel safe. Your peace no longer is a performance, it's an internal posture that you carry with you. All right. Here's our promise verse, Proverbs 29:25. The fear of man lies in the snare, but whoever trusts the Lord is safe. Listen, this isn't about being careless with people. This is about really trusting the voice of God in you more than the fear of disappointing others. All right. When you live from rejection, you live in a trap. You build your life around who they need you to be and what you were created. You start to live your life around uh, what they need you to be and not who you were created to be. But when you trust God, guess what? When you trust God, trust his love, trust your identity in him, guess what? You stop feeling like every no will cost you connection. Your approval is not your protection. Your trust is. All right. All right. The God in you doesn't really need you to keep playing small to keep the peace. All right. The God in you doesn't need you to keep playing small to keep the peace. It invites you to be secure in his truth, not led hostage by other people's opinions. So this verse is really kind of like God whispering, okay, you're already safe in me. You can stop twisting and you can stop twisting to be tolerated. You're free to be true. All right. And here's the neuroscience connection. The fear of man mentioned here. This aligns with the what trauma therapists call overfunctioning in relationships, where your brain and your body interprets emotional risk as danger. All right. So what happens is your body produces what we call cortisol. Actually, your body produces more cortisol. Your sense of clarity gets cloudy. You override your needs and you avoid truth because your nervous system is convinced honesty equals danger. But when you shift to trust-based living, right? So when you shift into trust-based living, when you trust that you are loved and whole, even when others disapprove, guess what? Your brain starts to relax. The cortisol level starts to drop and emotional clarity rises as you regain your authority in your voice and your peace. And I'm telling you, that is exactly where you want to be. All right. So I got to ask you this. I want you to ask yourself this. What relationship am I still performing for instead of showing up in? That is a powerful question. All right. What relationship am I still performing for instead of showing up in? All right. So let's put this into practice. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write one truth you haven't said out loud in a relationship. All right. Write a grace-based way to express that truth. All right. And then commit to practicing honesty in one small moment today. If you need a journal prompt, here's our journal prompt. Where have I confused being needed with being loved? This is an honest one. All right. Where have I confused being needed for being loved? And then our affirmation. I don't have to perform to be loved. My presence is enough. And then the intention for today, I honor connections that includes my truth. All right. And then your bonus challenge. Say one thing that you've been afraid to express, but say it with grace. All right. But say it with grace. All right. And then we have that call, that challenge, and that charge. All right. Listen, what truth have you been holding back? All right. Share that truth with. So I'm asking, what truth have you been holding back? The challenge is share that truth with yourself first. And then your charge is you're not too much. You are just too true to keep pretending. All right. You're not too much. You're just too true to keep pretending. And I want you to continue to go shape your life. All right. To continue to go shape your life. All right. Um, if this session was if this session resonated with you, right, and you're walking away with some insight today, I want you to drop a fire in the chat and let's continue to grow together. Make sure you join the YouTube page, right, so we can continue to grow our following. Make sure you invite a friend to the Elevate in Life Facebook group. All right, share the growth, all right, as a community. And guess what? If you're done performing for peace, you can always come inside Project Life, right? Where your trust or where your truth is safe. All right. So if you're done performing for peace, come inside Project Life where your truth is free. And you can join us today at SheilaLittle.com/life. And here's your takeaway for today. You don't have to get it right to be loved. You just have to get real. All right. You just have to get real. Tomorrow's show, all right, we're talking about hustle isn't holy when productivity replaces your presence. All right, this is all about focus, how perfectionism hijacks your focus and really drains your peace. All right, remember this. If you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I want you to know that I love you, and I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson.